Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that all members may have 5 legislative days in which to revise and extend their remarks and include extraneous material on the topic of the special order.
Without objection.
Mr. Speaker, fires are ravaging the West. I want to talk a little bit about what's going on with the fires, and I want to talk about what's not going on here in Congress. To start with, I just want to take a quick look at the science of fire. This fire triangle shows that 3 things are required to have a fire. You have to have fuel, heat, and oxygen. There's a lot of talk about what the role climate change is playing in these fires. Climate, increasing temperatures can draw fuel. If it gets windy, you can have more oxygen. Lightning can be one of the things to ignite fires, but a lot of fires obviously are ignited by man-made ways. When we talk about putting out fire, the first thing we do is try to get the fuel out of the way, or we use water to cool the fire and remove the oxygen. But we have to spend way too much time working on extinguishing fires when we could take the actions to reduce the fuel to reduce the fires. Anytime I talk about forest management, I get accused of wanting to clear cut the national forest. And I can promise you the last thing I want to do is clear cut the national forest. I want to use good management on the national forest. That's what we should be doing. But I often wonder if those people who talk about clear cutting even have any idea what a clear cut is. And I've put this chart together that shows a comparison between a clear cut and a catastrophic wildfire. And I'll go on the record and say that catastrophic wildfires are worse than clear cuts. And look at the data. During a clear cut, the trees are killed. During a catastrophic wildfire, the trees are killed. During a clear cut, the trees are removed. During a catastrophic wildfire, you're left with dead snags that can be fuel for additional wildfires. All vegetation is killed. That's what happens in a catastrophic wildfire. At least in a clear cut, you leave the residual grasses and the shrubs. Stream zones are protected when a clear cut's done. You leave vegetation around the streams. Catastrophic wildfire burns to the edge of the water. Soil organic materials are all burned up in a catastrophic wildfire. Special care is taken to protect the soil in a clear cut. When a clear cut is planned, a plan for reforestation is also in place. Often on catastrophic wildfire, there is no reforestation. As far as planning goes, it's extensive with a clear cut. It's unplanned and uncontrolled in a catastrophic wildfire. The size of a clear cut, in California, it's less than 20 acres. Wildfires are huge, burning millions of acres. We've almost burned 8 million acres to date in the wildfire season this year in the U.S. And we can continue going down the list, but you can see, even talking about carbon, at least with a clear cut, you're putting the wood into a material that stores carbon. With a wildfire, you're releasing the carbon into the air, and these dead snags eventually rot, and they're not just releasing carbon dioxide like the fire does, they're releasing methane, which is the worst greenhouse gas. Clear cutting is not something that we want to do on the national forest, but people who are not allowing good forest management, and that's Congress, with the rules that we have, are doing something much more devastating than clear cutting by allowing these catastrophic wildfires to continue unabated. Just as an example, this is the Angora fire. That is a natural clear cut. That's a stand replacing fire. This is 12 years later where you have no regrowth on the site. On top of that, according to the USGS in 2018, the carbon emissions from wildfires released the same amount of carbon as the emissions that would be produced by generating enough electricity to power California for a whole year. Mr. Speaker, we need to take action. It's not that the Forest Service doesn't know how to manage the land, it's that we have tied their hands and we've allowed activists and lawyers to manage the forest rather than the professionals in the Forest Service. If we don't want to see the same things repeating over and over with loss of life, loss of property, loss of a resource that actually pulls carbon dioxide out of the air and can be used to reduce the effects of climate, we should do something proactive and actually start managing these forests. It's time to act, and unfortunately, Congress has sat on our hands while we continue to watch the West burn. With that, I would like to yield 4 minutes to the gentleman from Arizona, Mr. Gosar.
First of all,